Hi guys! I wanted to take this opportunity to answer a bunch of the wonderful questions you guys had on the discussion board for commonly misinterpreted guiding techniques. This is exactly the kind of conversations we would have if you were in a face-to-face course, and online courses are no different. You should still get the same type of effect, the same type of instruction. So I wanted to spend a few minutes to actually go over some of these questions and answer it with you. The first question that was asked is, what would be a teacher's steps in handling a child who is acting out? My immediate answer is to find the root of why they're acting out. I always go back to watching my kids when I would teach preschool work in our garden. What they would do when they would go out to water the garden is they would pour water on the plant, on the leaves, on the flowers, whatever it was. They would only pour water on what they saw, when you and I both know that the part that really needs the water is the root of the plant, but that's not something you see. So in the same way, that's how we are to handle a child's behavior. We have to see, why are they doing it? You guys read several chapters ago about different types of behaviors. You know, they're either have needs that are not met, or expectations that they cannot live up to, or maybe they're not challenged enough, or they're challenged too much. So there's several reasons why children act out. Somebody also asked, what would you do if a student is interrupting and asking off-the-wall questions? Well, I would look at that saying, this child is looking for attention. That is a natural human need. So I would find a way to give them positive attention. See, if we look at our interactions with students and children, we see that we very infrequently give children positive attention. The attention we usually give them is negative when they're doing something wrong. So it's really important that we focus on what they're doing right. So if you have a child that's wiggling and squirming at circle time, just not wanting to sit still, and they're trying to get your attention by acting out, then you point out to them, I don't like when you do that, so I won't watch you. But when they do the right things, praise them. Say, wow, I love the way you're sitting on your bottom and your hands are to yourself. Or I really love the way that you raised your hand when it was time, when you wanted to talk. You didn't just talk when I was talking. So you point out the positive things. You give them positive attention so that they don't have to seek negative attention. They always say that negative attention is better than no attention. Okay? Somebody mentioned, and I love this, it said they would try to avoid at all costs telling the child if they do something, then they'll get something else returned. And this is so important, you guys. So many people, especially in this class, mention things like, I'll give the child a sticker, I'll give the child a treat. That is not okay. Okay? Think about this. If you drove to work and you went the speed limit, would you get a cookie? Would you win some money? No, you don't get a reward for doing what you're expected to do, right? But you do get a reward for doing something that is above an average. For instance, I just happen to have, I've got a certificate here. It's not because I come to work. It's because I hosted foreign exchange students. I went above and beyond my job to do something. So you get rewards for going above and beyond, not doing what you should. And it's so important to teach children that. Otherwise, they could grow up to be entitled, like they deserve something because they did what they were supposed to do. So we do not want to raise children like that. Okay. Another one we got was, how do parents handle waiting room situations, or situations where they have to be quiet? And to that I answer, we've got to train and educate our children on how to act in different social situations. Just like in the inclusion part 2, you guys saw the third part that you explored was social situations and how to handle them, all kinds of tools. So the first thing to do to prepare children for certain things like waiting rooms and things like that is to consistently enforce and teach expectations. For instance, it's okay to run outside. It is not okay to run inside because it's unsafe. It is okay to talk kind of louder in the classroom, but when we go to a waiting room or when we walk down the hall, the infants are sleeping, so we have to be quiet. Or maybe when we go to the doctors, it's okay to talk, but you have to talk quietly because people are getting better. So we explain to children what we expect, and we're consistent over and over and over telling them. Also, keeping in mind what we know about child development. It's important to keep in mind what you know about child development. And in a waiting room situation, that looks like understanding what a child's attention span looks like. You might remember reading about this in the first few chapters of the book, knowing what's age appropriate and knowing that young children don't have much of attention span. That's why it's not appropriate for 20 and 30 minute circle times. 15 and 20 minutes should be all they have for circle time, unless they're genuinely interested and want to keep going. But so you have to keep in mind their attention span when it comes to waiting rooms and so forth. So if they're not going to wait well, then you bring something for them to do. And there's all kinds of things called busy bags you can do in that situation. All right, the next question I love, love, love. And we kind of covered that, actually we very much covered this earlier on in the book when we talked about the importance of play. The question is, what would you do if you allowed your children to have free play but have parents complain because it's too crazy? Now, first of all, it shouldn't be too crazy. It should be what I call organized chaos, because you arrange your room. Remember, we talked about the environment is something that you could change. You arrange your room to where you don't have what I call runways. You have centers that are well defined and organized, and kids aren't just running around. They know exactly where they should be and what they're doing. I use center tags a lot when I taught. There would be signs on each center that said how many friends could go there, and then children would have these little tags with their name and picture on it, and they'd put it to the right center that they're playing in. So if I saw a child running, which it happens, they don't do what they're supposed to all the time, I would say, where are you supposed to be? And they would know, oh, my center tag is in dramatic play. I'll go back there. So there should be order in a classroom. Children need that. But also it's very important to understand that I think it was the 3rd chapter about child development. You've got to understand theory and child development in order to articulate why we do what we do. For instance, parents might wonder, oh my gosh, why are they just playing Play-Doh? Why aren't they learning anything? Shouldn't you be teaching them how to write their name by now? Well, you need to be able to articulate that when they play with Play-Doh, they're building their fine motor skills. They are building these muscles right here. I'm trying to get the right angle. If you look at your hand right here, you have a concave indentation right here, and that's because all around your hand is muscle. That muscle you are not born with. You have to develop it, and you develop it by squishing Play-Doh and making those muscles contract and get bigger. Only then, when you have muscle, are you able to do this, to write your name, right? Another example is you can't write letters if you're not able to practice. For instance, a lot of people see toddlers, 1s and 2s, do this number when they're doing art, and they're like, oh, that's just scribbles. What are they doing? They're not learning. Those art skills are basic skills for forming your first letters. For instance, if you break down every alphabet letter, it only breaks down to 4 basic marks: a big curve, a little curve, a long line, a short line. You can make any letter of the alphabet with those. How do you learn to make those? By art, by creative development. So those are just some. Let me give you one more example. All right. Children cannot do math like algebra and geometry until they learn basic math skills. You can't do algebra until you learn how to pattern. You know, when you take those little bears and you say red bear, blue bear, red bear, blue bear. Or you color a piece of paper different colors. That's algebra, finding the missing piece. You can't learn geometry until you understand the concept of shapes. So you play with shapes. You talk about them, okay? These are all things that are so important. And the last thing that you need to keep in mind when it comes to articulating why play is learning is theory. I mean, gosh, there's so many theories that play into this, but one is Jean Piaget. He says children construct knowledge. You guys might remember reading that in the beginning of the semester. They construct it based on old knowledge, what they already know. They construct new knowledge on that. How do they do it? Not by worksheets, not by flashcards. They do it by constructing their own knowledge through concrete materials, touching things. They don't learn the calendar by looking at a couple pieces of paper. They learn that time passes by watching plants grow and get bigger over time, by maybe making paper chains and adding one over another and seeing how they get longer. Okay, they need real things to touch. All right, next one. Should timeout be considered as the first choice for discipline? Absolutely not. Timeout, as a matter of fact, should only be considered if it's a safety hazard. Okay, timeout is not the best way to do it because it does this number. It stops the behavior, but that's it. It just stops it. Whereas redirection stops the behavior, but redirects kids to what we want, the desired behavior. So things like positive reinforcement, redirection, all these strategies you guys learned about in the last chapter, that is what we want to do. Timeout is good when you have a child hurt another child and you tell the perpetrator, to go sit down for a second while you clean this boo-boo of the other child's, or while you assess the bite mark, or whatever it may be. Timeout should not just be get rid of a kid. Now, you can have a calming station where it's intentionally set up to teach social emotional skills. You might want to check out Google Positive Discipline, where you have soft area for them to just go and chill out for a minute, where you have bottles that you can shake to calm down, where you have a journal for them to draw in. Okay, that's intentionality. Timeout just stops, and that's it. All right, as far as teachers who are stubborn and stuck in their own ways, oh my gosh, that's tons of fun. What I would suggest is take some of these wonderful handouts, highlight the main points, and say, hey, look what I learned in class. Don't ever take it as I know more than you. Trust me, that used to be me, the I know more than you person. Nobody likes that. So share these copies of people. Encourage them to go to workshops. Encourage them to come to school. I just sent you guys an email about free scholarships. You can always learn more. And if nothing else, model this behavior. Okay? Let's see. There's another one. It says, what would you do if you made the mistake of harsh punishment and parents caught you? Well, my question back would be, if you know better now, why would you do harsh punishment? So I would just focus on the future and make sure you are doing the correct, effective behavior guidance methods. Because it's really not fun when you get caught doing something you're not supposed to do, especially if you know you're not supposed to do it. Okay, there's just nothing to say, but I'm sorry. Okay, so just do the right thing. Let's see, there's two more. One, somebody said if we cannot allow a child to participate in recess, if we can't not do that. I don't believe in that because I don't believe in rewarding bad behavior. So when it comes down to it, they're saying, why can't I tell a child they can't go outside? Well, that's like me telling you, you did not make a good grade, so you don't get lunch today. All right? No. Going outside is not a reward. Going outside is a necessity. It's a part of what young children need. So it's taking out something necessary. Okay? So it's important not to do that. Now, you can say other things like you don't get to go to the center until you clean up this center. That's okay. But taking away things like food or going outside, that is not appropriate. And it is not rewarding bad behavior. It's simply giving children what they need. All right. Do I believe that timeout hurts children? Not necessarily. I believe that timeout is not effective for building children's knowledge of what is expected. It's not effective in guiding behavior. Does it hurt children? No, but it's just not effective. All right, so that's it. I hope this was a good informational video. And if you have any questions or comments or anything to say, feel free to post it on the water cooler forum. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. All right, take care.